What do you think about Gray Man having a limited 1 week theatrical run?
No, I don't like it. I mean, I think Netflix's theatrical plans are just in disarray. They don't have a theatrical component to their films. Netflix needs a theatrical component because at the end of the day, we all know this. It's a fact. When a film is in theaters, its visibility is higher, it's got more cachet. That's how I was as a kid. I mean, we all went to movies. There was no such thing as day and date at home, right? Like Netflix or Disney Plus or any of these things that Hulu, name a streaming service. It was all about theatrical. And anything that wasn't theatrical was a TV movie. So it wasn't viewed with the same lens. It was like, this is a lesser film because it's not on the big screen. And that's Netflix's challenge, is getting people to accept them as a studio, such as Warner Brothers, Disney, 20th Century, obviously part of Disney, Sony, Universal, these studios, Paramount, that have the legacy that Netflix does not have. But the way you build legacy is you have to have a theatrical component. So when I look at The Gray Man, a film that's, I believe, a $200 million budget with the Russo brothers, $200 million film, and you don't have it in theaters beyond 1 week. And by the way, not even the major chains, not AMC, not Regal. It is, Cinemark or even smaller. And you have this $200 million film. You have to have at least a 30 to 45 day window, theatrical window, right? They used to be 90. So let's give it 30, that's a month. A month before it's on Netflix, it's at AMC, Regal, the major chains. Figure out some kind of sharing. I don't know how the profits work with all that stuff, the ins and outs, the numbers. But I know this, they need to get that because it'll add cachet to their film. So instantly, when you ask me about The Gray Man, I say, it's lesser because it's not a theatrical film. It's not, a Universal release or a Warner Brothers release. It is going to be on Netflix a week after. And again, we can't even in LA, it's gonna be very hard to find theatrically. So Netflix has to figure out how to get their theatrical game going. I can't believe they don't have it done by now. I mean, I'm hearing, finally, you're hearing these stories in the trades that they're thinking about. I'm like, thinking about it? How did you not do this like a year or two ago? I've been saying this for forever. It's such a vital part of the visibility of a film is the theatrical component.
Okay, do you think some of their reasoning behind this is like pressure buy? Like, hey, this is only on sale for this weekend, folks. So because of rising costs and things like that, give people 1 week. Now there's pressure. We want to see this on the big screen.
No, I think that's the flip of that. So because it's only 1 week, now you're telling audiences you only have to wait a week to see it. Look at Paramount and what they just did with Top Gun Maverick. They gave it a 120-day theatrical window. That is 4 months. That's longer than the old 90. So what you do when you announce that it's a 4-month theatrical exclusive, you are forcing people to go to the movie theater to see your film. And I think listen, I think we're in a different place now than we were in 2020, certainly when COVID first hit. I think if you look around, look at the audiences I'm seeing at films now, it's back to the 2019 pre-pandemic levels. So why not give audiences the opportunity to go see it at a theater where it's going to be that communal experience, where it's going to be something that they're going to remember far more than watching it at home. I mean, every single time, theatrical beats home viewing, 99.99% of the time. So unless someone's on their cell phone, okay, or talking, or kicking your chair. Those are separate issues. But the actual experience of watching it on a big screen with a crowd, in your recliner, if you paid the upcharge, these are all better. And I think that another thing that's really great about films, and I think about going back to watching Top Gun Maverick just last week, seeing young kids and older folk right next to me, this wide swath of all ages going to this film. This might have been their first film back into a theater, right? Because they've been, had COVID, they've done the whole thing, and maybe they were a little leery about going back. Then they go to see Top Gun Maverick, and they take the precautions they need to take, but they say to themselves, hey, that wasn't so bad. And now I think I'm over my fear. And now I'm going to get out and not just go see movies. I'm going to go live life more than I have in the past 2 years. So movies are the vehicle for so many other things. I mean, just think about that, breaking that plane of being frightened of going outside your house. And all of a sudden you go to see Top Gun Maverick and you come out and you go, first of all, I love the movie. Second of all, I'm alive a few days later. Hey, let's go try this and this and this. And then you regain where we were before, which is so important, right? Living life fearlessly. Because if you're living a life of fear, obviously you're not living. So I think, again, just think about taking something small like that and then extrapolating it out and saying, wow, look at what it just did for somebody. I think about that too.
So shortening the window of opportunity for theatrical actually has the opposite effect.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Shortening the theatrical window absolutely makes your film, it puts it in peril box office wise, because people are now going to say, I can wait 17 days. Certainly I can wait a week. But even, look at HBO Max was doing that all throughout the pandemic, day and date, right? It was on HBO Max and it was in theaters. And look what happened. Every one of them suffered, because if you give people the opportunity to watch a movie at home, they're going to take it 9 times out of 10, right? 8 times out of 10, 7. Most people are going to go, I'm going to stay home. I'll say it's cheaper. I don't have to drive to the theater, whatever it is. So I think if you give them the opportunity to watch at home, you're going to lose a huge segment of your movie-going public, right there. And then also, people will just say, I'll just wait it out. If you tell them it's going to be on in 17 days. If I was running a studio, I don't think I'd even announce. I would just say, hey, it's in theaters. We'll let you know when it's going to be on our streaming service. Because once you announce it, you instantly give someone a deadline that they know I only have to wait, 5 weeks. I can do that. But if you make it just TBA, then they will go, I want to see this movie. Because right now, the world works, certainly on Twitter, film Twitter, and social media, is people want to talk about movies now. What are people talking about now? You don't want to be talking about a film, 3 weeks from now. Everyone's like, oh my God, that's old. We already did that. We already did that discussion. I mean, people go to see movies like 2 days after they open now. So sorry I'm late to have seen this film. It opened 2 days ago. But that's the world we live in. Now, it's white hot at the moment. So I think that's what theatrical, that's how it thrives, is by making people go see the movie at the theater if they want to discuss it, and people want to discuss it. So they're going to go to the theater.
How much money do you think The Gray Man will make in theaters for this 1 week theatrical?
Not much. In fact, remember this, Netflix does not report its box office, so we'll never know. So they didn't, Roma had a small theatrical, Power of the Dog had it. I mean, a number of their films had that 1 week window, like especially the awards films. But they never announced the box office. They keep that down. Army of the Dead, I believe, had that for a week. I think the reports got out, didn't do that well. But again, it's not going to do well because a week is nothing for people to wait. They'll be like, whatever. And plus, remember, it's not at every theater. Like, if I want to see The Gray Man, I have to probably go find it at a smaller theater here in LA. I can't just go down to AMC because they don't have a deal with AMC. So we'll never know, but I'll bet you it's not very big because it's not going to be available everywhere. Now, if it was 1 week at AMC Regal with the larger chains, I would say better. But again, the week is not good. You really want to make it a month minimum because otherwise people are just like, I'll just wait. I'll wait.
Let's talk about Red Notice.
Yep.
How much money would that have made?
Apparently, it was one of Netflix's most popular films streaming all time. I mean, you have 3 major stars in that: The Rock, Gal, Ryan Reynolds. You got these 3 major stars. I mean, if that's a Universal film, I gotta remember when that came out. It was still during the pandemic, so that would have been shifted. But let's just say Red Notice comes out today, and it's a Universal film. Okay, that opens with at least 40+ million, maybe higher. Even though it's not a great film, but again, average person seems to enjoy it enough. Look at The Lost City. Lost City is a Paramount movie, obviously with Sandra Bullock and Brad and Channing, and it did very well for them. I think Red Notice is very much of that, and I think it made over 100 million Lost City. So I think Red Notice is easy over 100. Domestic alone, probably throughout the world, certainly more because it is The Rock will travel, Ryan Reynolds travels, Gal would travel. All those would go do well overseas. But it's hard to know because it's Netflix. If it was Universal, I still think it would probably be about a $50 million opening, and then at least 100 million box office. So Netflix leaves that out, right? So Netflix doesn't have that all of a sudden. Do they gain more subscribers? I'm not privy to that information. But I just don't understand how you don't make money while you can in theaters for at least a month or two, and pocket that 100 million or so or more, and now you don't have that. It's just like leaving money on the table. I don't understand the philosophy other than to drive people to subscribe to Netflix, but I still feel like they're going to subscribe anyhow. They might want to watch it for a second time at home. So I just think that Netflix needs to absolutely revamp their model, certainly for their big films, not for every film, but for their big films. You're spending all this money on your budget, $200 million for The Gray Man, and you're not going to put it in theaters? Why? It just doesn't compute with me. The business doesn't make sense to me. And again, it cheapens your film because it's not theatrical.
What if Netflix puts The Gray Man exclusively in theaters for 1 month and it fails at the box office? How much would a massive failure cost Netflix? I know we don't know too much about their box office numbers.
Right. Well, first of all, we'd have to know what the numbers are, right? So we'd have to know, they'd have to report the actual number, and we'd know. But I don't think, given it's July, it's a 4-quad film, right? Largely, it's probably 3.5. I mean, young kids are probably not going to want to see The Gray Man, but let's call it pretty wide. You've got major stars in that film, obviously. So you're looking at a very large chunk of the movie-going pie. Does it damage the film if it bombs? I mean, are people going to unsubscribe from Netflix? No. So I don't think it does anything. I don't think it affects Netflix's long. People aren't going to unsubscribe, and you made at least something from the film. So I'm trying to ascertain what is the downside of putting a film theatrically. It doesn't, other than the sharing the revenue, right? Because the theater, the chains get their money and the studio gets money. But still, isn't any money better than no money? Plus the subscribers? Again, it just doesn't work. I can't wrap my mind around it.
Are movie theaters upset that Netflix has hurt their business?
They definitely were during the pandemic. I mean, during the pandemic, everything was streaming, right? Look at Netflix. The stock was through the roof. Now it's tanking. People were stuck at home, so of course they're watching Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, any of these things. But I think theaters were at that time. I don't think anymore. I feel like that's gone. I think Netflix, the problem, Netflix always wanted this really short window. They're like, we'll give it to you for 7 days or 10. Why not just make it 30? Okay, figure out a way, 45. There's got to be something. I would love to sit down with Scott Stuber, who I saw last night, the head of Netflix, and ask him, what's your reasoning? I would love to hear someone, because I guess they're finally talking about it, but I'd love to know, what was your reasoning for not doing it? You didn't want to put up with the hassle? What's the answer? But I think that, no, there's no down. If it doesn't do well, I don't think it does anything. You still have money. You made something from the film. Plus, you're going to get people that subscribe to watch it, even if it's bad. People still watch bad movies.
Sometimes they watch them, more than the good ones, yeah.
I have watched Firestarter 5 times in theaters. First of all, I have A-List from AMC, which is the best thing ever. Okay, sorry if this is advertising, but AMC A-List is literally $24 for 12 movies a month. 12. 3 movies a week, okay, for $24. So once I got that, I'm like, hey, I've got 3 movies this week. Let's go see Firestarter again. And it's because it's bad. So I have sat through Firestarter 5 times because it is bad. It's 90 minutes and I have A-List. But there's nothing wrong with sitting through a bad movie. Sometimes it's more entertaining because you can laugh at it.
Do you think Netflix will ever buy movie theaters?
They should have. I thought they were going to with ArcLight, right? I thought that they were going to go down there. I know they have the Egyptian, but I thought that they were going to go buy ArcLight Hollywood, which would have made so much sense. It's sitting there. It's still empty. I don't know what's going on with ArcLight Hollywood, but it would be perfect for Netflix. They're down the street. They have 2 offices, right? One on Sunset, one on Vine. And they have 2 campuses. Right there, we can walk over to ArcLight. I don't know how that didn't happen, but it would be the perfect showcase for their films. Put that in the Cineradome, put it in the Cineradome, and then you have your #1 film in that giant screen, and you don't even care about profits at that point. You own the theater. So if it's a giant, that's a huge room, obviously, and let's just say it's not full. Who cares? You're giving that film the stature that it needs to, again, that theatrical component that adds to the stature of your film. So buy ArcLight Hollywood, and then stick your films there, and then have other films. Maybe that's their issue too. They don't want to be, I don't want to have a Universal film and a Paramount film and a Disney film in with ours. I don't know what the point is. I mean, I would not suggest they buy the ArcLight and put all Netflix films. That would not be the suggestion. I would just say, buy it and then put in your films where you want, in the strategic rooms you want, and then let the other studios have theirs. Because you can't just have because the world doesn't run only on one studio's films. We've seen that. You really want that diversity of different studios and distributors.
Maybe that, and expose them to liability.
Could be that
want,
too.
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know the business of it. It just doesn't make sense. I just think at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: is the theatrical adds to your film, the cachet of your film, and without it, with that missing the theatrical component, it degrades and devalues your film. I 100% believe that.